Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy Walsh and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar. Today we're going to talk about visitors in BNI Connect, and we're going to actually touch upon the entire process of visitors and how it relates to the various functions within BNI Connect. So taking it from the initial phase of inviting visitors to pre-registering visitors and finally to following up with visitors after they've already attended the meeting. Today's webinar is a live webinar. That means that it is interactive. So if you have any questions as we're going along, please feel free to ask those questions. The best way to do that is with the question panel. You can type a question in. I'll see it pop up on the screen here, and I'll be able to answer that question as we're going through. There is an opportunity also to, if you are on a computer with a microphone or you happen to be dialed in via a telephone as well, I can open up your microphone if you'd prefer to speak your question. This webinar is being recorded. We do record all of our webinars, and when technology cooperates, we do upload those to our YouTube channel. You can go to our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And this is where we keep the entire repository of past webinars, as well as other things like educational moment videos and messages from Dr. Meisner about BNI Connect. Great resource. I believe there's well over 100 videos up there now. We also have them chronologically on our support site. If you go to support.bniconnect.com, or if you are in BNI Connect and you click on this little question mark here in the upper right-hand corner, that will take you over to our support site. On the support site, you'll see our list of upcoming webinars, as well as in the chapter training and documentation section, recorded webinars. And here you can look at the webinars as they came through chronologically. So you can review any or all of the webinars that way as well through the support site. So today's webinar is scheduled for approximately 30 minutes of content. So I do try to respect everybody's time, especially if you need to get right back to your jobs or other appointments. That being said, I will always stay on these calls as long as people have questions, whether it's about this or anything in BNI Connect, and we will be recording the entire session along with all of the questions. So please do feel free to ask as many questions as you would like. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about visitors in BNI Connect. Now, I also wrote a document on this, and you can download this document from the support site as well. But let's talk about the overview of the visitor process. And there's three different phases of visitors when it comes to BNI Connect. The first phase is with inviting visitors. And through BNI Connect, you can send a visitor invitation out through the system. It's a customized email, and I'll show you that in just a couple of minutes. So that's the first step, is getting a visitor to come to the meeting. Well, even before the meeting, there's a second step, and this is something that's fairly new in BNI Connect. It was just released in the end of November, and that gives you the ability to either, as a member, you can pre-register visitors for a meeting, or visitors can pre-register themselves for an upcoming meeting through your regional website or through your chapter website. So there is the process of pre-registering visitors for a meeting. Now, there's some great benefits when you have a visitor that pre-registers, and mainly it means they're going to be confirmed that they're going to visit that meeting. So if you've ever had a situation in the past where you invite a visitor to a meeting, they say they're going to show up and they don't show up, well, there's a lot of reasons for that. They could have forgotten about the meeting. Maybe they felt that, nobody's expecting me there, so I don't need to go. Well, this can help with both of those issues with the email reminders and the pre-follow-up of those visitors. Then there is the meeting itself, and then after the meeting, there's a couple of steps as well, and that's marking the visitors as having attended. If they pre-registered, it's as simple as checking off a box. If they didn't register for the meeting, then the traditional process of a visitor host entering a visitor into BNI Connect. And finally, there is the follow-up of visitors afterwards. So reaching back out to visitors to thank them for coming to the meeting, or maybe a couple of weeks have gone by, or a month has gone by, or 6 months have gone by and you're having an open house or a visitor's day or a stack day and you'd like to invite those visitors back to your meeting, that is also available through BNI Connect. So let's take a look at each of these 3 processes in BNI Connect. So first let's talk about inviting visitors. Now, inviting visitors is pretty easy. There's a great tool in BNI Connect that allows you to email out a template email invitation. And this is located under Operations, Chapter, Create Email, Email Visitor Invitation. So again, that's Operations Chapter, Create Email, Email Visitor Invitation. Very straightforward. You just need to put in a name, a company name, an email address, and a personal message. So let's say that I'm going to invite SpongeBob SquarePants. Oops, help if I spelled correctly. And he's from Nick Jr., and his email address is spongebob@nickjr.com. I saw you on TV and think you would make a great addition to our chapter. I look forward to meeting you. So once you've done this, all you need to do is to click the Send button. What this will do is it'll take this information and it'll insert it into an email template and immediately send that email out. I'm going to go ahead and click Send, and in just a few seconds I should have that in my own, I put in SpongeBob's email, so tell you what, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to put in my own email address, and I'm just going to put in some fake stuff this time, and I'm going to put in my email address and a fake message, and click Send. So in a few seconds now, since I don't actually have the SpongeBob SquarePants email address, I should get this email in my inbox. And here it is. So this is what the email looks like. You can see it has a nice branded BNI logo at the top. Dear, and it puts the person's first name in. And then it has my message that I wrote. It lets them know all the rest of the stuff is automatically inserted for you. So one of the problems we run into as members is that we tend to not know what to say when we're inviting people to a chapter, or we give them too much information, or we don't give them enough information, or maybe excuse me, maybe we're just lazy and we don't want to have to look up the address of the place that we meet. I mean, we know how to get there every week, but we may not know the address. So looking that up and inserting it into an email, the system does that all for you. So it lets them know what the name of the chapter is, where you meet, the address, what day, and what time. It gives them a little bit of information about BNI. And finally, a call to action. Please let me know if you plan to attend. And it signs it from you. Now the great thing is that if they reply to this message, it will go directly to you. So even though it's coming from BNI Connect, it has a reply to address of your email address. A couple of other pieces of information about the email invitation. That information is not stored permanently anywhere in the system. So you can send one of these to yourself. You can send one of these to a friend if you'd just like to test it out and see how it works. It's just a one-time thing. It inserts the information, creates the email, and sends it out, and it's done. So you can't go back and look up any invitations. They're not going to be in any reports or anything like that. Just a quick way to get a quick email out inviting a visitor. So do we have any questions on the visitor invitation email before we move on to the next step? All right. So the next step is your invitation email has gone out, and the visitor is interested in coming to a meeting. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can pre-register a visitor for an upcoming BNI meeting. The first way, while we're in here, anyway, under Operations Chapter, as a member, if you have a confirmed visitor, let's say that this person has emailed you back and said, yeah, you know what, that sounds great. I would love to come and visit your chapter. You can go ahead and register them for your upcoming meeting. And right here under Operations Chapter, Manage Visitor, you can manage or register a prospective visitor for an upcoming meeting. So if I click on Register a Prospective Visitor, it's going to pull up a quick form that we can fill out about the visitor that would be coming to that meeting. So I would go ahead and select a visit date. Now note, I can't select a date in the past. It's only allowing me to select future dates. The first name. So I'm actually going to register myself for this upcoming meeting. Company name. The person's address, if you know it. If you don't know this information, you don't have to fill it out right now, but it would be helpful to fill it out because it's that much less information that we have to put in later. Phone number is a mandatory field. Email address is also another mandatory field. And click Submit. Oh, sorry about that. I forgot the other mandatory fields. Information technology and a specialty. And click Submit. Now what this will do is first it sends a registration email to the person that you just registered. So this is a confirmation email saying you are confirmed to visit that chapter. And here's what that looks like. I did just receive this because I just registered myself. So it says I'm confirmed to visit the BNI Wakefield chapter meeting. It gives me the date that I'm confirmed for, the time that I'm confirmed for, lets me know to bring plenty of business cards, and it gives the information over here on the side again. Now the other great thing that this does is it also notifies the rest of the leadership team and visitor hosts of your chapter, letting them know that somebody's going to be coming to the meeting. So I'm on the leadership team for my own chapter, so I also received this email. It lets me know that this person, myself in this case, is confirmed to visit this chapter meeting. Lets me know to be prepared. Reminds me that visitors can become members, but they also bring lots of business to a chapter. Gives me the other details about this visitor over on the left. Lets me know that the company name, their profession and specialty, their phone number, and the email address. One of the great things that you can now start to do with your visitor hosts and your chapter is to say, hey, if you get one of these emails, you might want to pre-follow up with the people that are registered to visit the chapter. Let them know that you're looking forward to meeting them at the chapter. Now, the other thing that happens is with the pre-registration, 2 business days before the meeting, I will receive an email saying, just a reminder, you are confirmed to visit this chapter. And remind me again the date, the time, the location, and to bring plenty of business cards. Now there's another way that you can register for these chapter meetings, and that's through the public websites. Now every region in BNI has their own website. So it'll depend on where you are. If you happen to be in Alabama, it might be bnialabama.com. I happen to be in the Rhode Island region, so our chapter website, our region website is bniri.com. If you're not sure what your regional website is, please check with your director consultant or your executive director, and they'll be able to point you to the right place. Now, on the region websites, there's a couple of ways that a person can register for an upcoming meeting. And people are already doing this. People do use the regional websites, non-BNI members. It could be past BNI members that are looking to connect with an existing BNI member. It could be people that just know about BNI and would like to use a BNI member. But they are pre-registering for meetings already. A couple of ways to do this. You can go to Find a Chapter, and you can search for a chapter. Now on each one of these chapter pages, I happen to be in the Wakefield chapter, there is a form here, Visit This Chapter. So if I click on the Visit This Chapter button, this will take me to a registration page where this person can enter all of their details. And it's pretty similar to all the mandatory details that you would enter as a member on the members only portion of BNI Connect. The only difference is that they do have an opportunity to say, I don't know my classification, and type something in themselves. It is protected by a CAPTCHA code, so they do have to pass this security test here in order to be able to submit this registration. And the same thing happens with registrations on the website as well. The emails will still be processed, and the chapter will be notified of this incoming visitor. One other way that people can register is on the chapter websites. So on your chapter website, if I go to visit the chapter website, ours happens to be bniri.com/Wakefield, you'll see that there's a link over on the left-hand side that says Visit Chapter. Now, of course, if you'd like to, you can put a button on your page or do other things when you're customizing your website, or even send links out to this particular page. And this is the exact same page as we had in the previous example. Now, I know that we have a number of executive directors and regional team members on the call as well. There is one other way to register. If you are using the planned chapters feature within your region, you can register for planned chapters as well. You can also register for core groups. So under the chapters forming page, this is the core group information, and people can use the Visit This Group in order to register for a core group. Planned chapters are only accessible via the map. So if you have any planned chapters on your map, I have to see if I can find one here in my region. And I'm not sure if we have, oh, there's one. So here's a planned chapter, and there's a Register Now button for the planned chapters. And this is the only way on the external side, on the public side, that you can register for a planned chapter. Once somebody has registered for a meeting, they will show up in a couple of different places. The first place is the Manage Registered Visitors. And under the Manage Registered Visitors, you can search by a date range or by a name if you'd like to, or leave it all blank and look at all of the registered visitors. And we can see that I have this one registered visitor here, which is the one I just entered a few minutes ago. If we know the person's not coming, maybe they called and said, oh, I registered by accident, please remove me, I don't want to get any more emails. You can go ahead and delete that registration. Or let's say that they say, oh, you know what, I registered for the meeting on the 16th, I can't go on that day, I need to come to another day. You can go in and edit any of the details of this registration. Click on the Edit a Prospective Visitor link, and this will basically pull up the page that we use to enter the visitor. You can change any of the details here that you would like. So let's say I'd like to change the visit date. I can change this. They're not available on the 16th. They're going to come on the 23rd instead. I can go ahead and change that and submit it. So that's working with the pre-registration. Oh, by the way, an email will go out when that happens to let that person know that their registration has been changed. All right, so do we have any questions on the pre-registration portion of registering visitors? All right. So we do have a couple of comments. No, not at this time. Great info. And another one from Sabina says, no, but this is cool. Thank you, Sabina. All right. So moving on then, let me also show you a couple of reports that are associated with registered visitors. So from a chapter level, you can go to the reports chapters section. And you'll see a couple of new reports down at the bottom. And we have the visitor registration report. So you can look from a period of time to see which visitors are registered. It's by default, it's going to show you the next 7 days worth of people that are registered for pretty much the next meeting. So it might be good to teach visitor hosts and leadership teams to go in here to say, okay, let's see who we have registered for next week's meeting. Maybe you want to call them the day before the meeting and do some initial, again, pre-follow-up. So there's nobody registered for next week's meeting, but that's because I bumped my registration out a week. And here we can see that I am registered for January 23rd. All right, so Terry says, which leadership team members have access to this info? Now, by default, the ability to register visitors, the operations chapter, manage visitor, register a prospective visitor should be available to anyone. Anybody with a member role or above should have access to this functionality. Now on the public websites, obviously anybody can register a visitor. Managing registered visitors is by default only open to leadership teams, meaning presidents, vice presidents, secretary treasurers, and visitor hosts. Now, those permissions are customizable, so that is a regional decision. They can go in and edit who has access to what. So if you think you should be seeing it and you don't, or you do see it and you don't think you should be seeing it, that's a discussion to have with your director consultant, your regional admin, or your executive director. So hopefully that answers your question, Terry. And Katie, I do see your question. I'm going to tackle that one at the end of the webinar, if that's okay. All right, so we've talked about before the meeting. Well, now the meeting happens, and we are now going to talk about, well, what happens after a visitor attends a meeting. Well, there's two situations that happen. Either the visitor pre-registered or the visitor didn't pre-register. But either way, we would like to register those visitors in BNI Connect so that we have the ability to follow up with them later. And they also get some communications. They get a thank you for visiting. They get, we can find them in reports, and we can also then convert them to members at some point in the future if that happens. So for visitors that pre-registered for a meeting, it's very, very easy to mark them as attended a meeting. And we do that through Manage Registered Visitors. We find the visitor, click on Edit, and all you have to do is click the checkbox for Visitor Attended. It's as easy as that. For visitor hosts that spend a lot of time after the meeting typing in all of the information, this will become your new favorite tool. If you can get members to pre-register their visitors, or you can get visitors to pre-register themselves, this will save you a lot of data entry work. You won't have to try to decipher chicken scratch, and it will more than likely also be more correct. Again, once you mark the visitor as attended, attendance marked will go to the next following week's open POMS report. So if this is done after your meeting, so let's say that I'm the visitor host for my chapter. We happen to meet on Thursdays. It's now Friday. I'm finally getting around to doing my visitor host duties. The credit for the visitor will actually show up in next week's POMS report. It's just the way the system is, and closed reports and things like that. It is something that we're looking at for a future version, but right now it is important to know that it will be credited in the following week's POMS report. Now, for visitors that did not pre-register, the way to do that is through Operations, Chapter, Manage Visitor, and just add a visitor. So this should really be called Add a Visitor that already visited but did not pre-register link. Click on that. Fill out all the details just like you would for a regular visitor. And this visitor will now be registered, and whoever was chosen in the Invited By field will again get the credit for that in the POMS report. Great thing about putting visitors in is as long as there's an email address entered with visitors, they will get an email saying, by the way, thank you for visiting our chapter. Katie Roth says, what is POMS? The POMS report is all of your statistics for the chapter. POMS stands for present, absent, late, medical, and substitute. But it also tracks the referrals given, the referrals received, the thank you for closed business, all of that chapter activity. But you also get credit in that report if you sponsor a visitor to the chapter. You would get kind of points for that. So hope that helps, Katie. Okay, so that's how to then enter visitors. Now let's talk just a little about follow up with visitors afterwards. Now following up with visitors, the first step of that is done automatically by the system, and that is when I've entered a new visitor or I have marked a pre-registered visitor as attended a meeting, they will get the first email that says, thank you for visiting the chapter. But let's say that you'd like to go back and do some additional follow-up on visitors. You can do that as well. Now, a couple of different ways to do that. The first way to do that is, again, through this Operations Chapter menu, Operations Chapter. Under this Create Email, where we sent the visitor invitation to start with, there's a new one that has Email Chapter Visitors. That's the third option on the list here. If I click on Email Chapter Visitors, I can slice and dice visitors. I can go through, I can pick certain categories. Let's say that you're doing a stack day where you're inviting only a couple of professions to come and visit your chapter that week. Well, you can look and say, well, I want to invite anybody with accounting, anybody with furniture, facilities, and nonprofit organizations. And you can click Next, and that will find all the people. I'm going to select all. You can also choose a date range. So by default, it's going to show the last week's worth of visitors, but I can go back and show the last 5 years worth of visitors if I'd like to. I click Next, and this will give you an email list of all of those visitors that came to visit your chapter. So you can highlight them, press Control-C, open up a new email in your own email program, and I highly recommend putting them into the BCC line. Then you can write your email saying, hey, by the way, we're having a great Visitors Day coming up next week. We'd love for you to come back and visit our chapter. The other ways that you can find visitors in the system is through the reports. So if I go to Reports, Chapter, if I scroll down a little bit, I'll see a chapter visitor report. And very similarly, I can choose a start date and an end date. I'm just going to go back a significant amount of time and click Go. And here we can get more detailed information about the visitor. Now, in this report on screen, it's only going to show us, the first name, the last name, the company, the profession, email, and visit date. If I export this report, it does show me a little bit more detailed information. So it does show me the full address information this way. If I'd like to send out, let's say, a postcard mailing or something along those lines. So that is the visitor process in BNI Connect, starting with inviting visitors, going into pre-registering visitors, marking attendance at meetings, and then finally coming through and following up with visitors. Now, there are some additional tools at a regional level that I'd be happy to show executive directors and director consultants on one of our every other Friday, or I'm sorry, it might be the first and third Friday of the month, director-only webinars. So it is the bottom of the hour. I do want to be respectful of people's time that need to leave right at the bottom of the hour. For those of you that do need to leave, thank you so much for being here. I would love it if you could tell other people about these webinars and invite them to come and join us. The full list of webinars can be found on the support site, support.bniconnect.com, or if you go to the question mark in BNI Connect. Our next webinar is Maintaining Your Chapter Website, and that one will be on Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Again, this is being recorded. Assuming technology cooperates with us, we will have this uploaded as soon as possible. That being said, for those of you that have some additional time, what I would like to do is to open this up for questions. I would love to answer any questions about the visitor process that you might have, or anything about BNI Connect that you would like to ask. So Katie has a question from earlier that I promised I'd go back and talk about. And Katie says, this is kind of a different question. However, my BNI consultant said you can find past members of BNI here. I thought they might make good prospects. Where do you find past members? Can you address this? So past members are going to be a little bit difficult to find in the system. They're not directly accessible at a member level. Regions have the ability to go back and look through the previous database, but from a member level, it's not always accessible. You can get names by looking at the POMS report. So under Reports, Chapter, you'll see a summary POMS report. Now, the summary POMS report, again, this is your status report, your statistical report for the chapter. But you can pull this report for as long a period of time as you'd like to. By default, it's going to show us the last 6 months, but you can go back. Again, I can go back to, let's say, 2004. I can go back before that, but it's only showing a couple of years at a time. I'm going to go back to 2000 and click Go. Now, the thing about this report is that it will actually show anybody who was a member at any time during that period. So this would give you a list of names of anybody who's been a member of that chapter going back in time. That's really going to be at a member level, your only access to looking through past members that way. So I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were looking for, Katie, but yeah, again, director consultants and executive directors, there are some additional tools. So if you are looking for other lists, I would recommend that you talk with your executive director or your director consultant. And Megan, yes, indeed, you are very funny. Linda says, where will I find the link for the recorded session? So it will be in 2 places. The first place is on our YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/ youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. This is where we upload all of our recorded webinars. Now you'll also find it on the support site. So if I go to BNI Connect here and I just click on this question mark here in the upper right hand corner, this will take us to our support site. And on the support site, there's a section, Chapter, Training, and Documentation. Recorded webinars, and they are broken out by month. So just click on the month. It will take me a couple of days to a week to get it up into the support site and onto YouTube. I have to do it in between all of the other things, but I will get it up there as soon as possible. So hopefully that helps, Linda. So while the rest of you are thinking up any final questions, I'm going to ask you one more favor. If you could, I would love it if you would give us a like on our Facebook page, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. If you could please go up there, give us a like. We also do things like webinar reminders and announcements and upgrades announcements and tips and tricks and report hints and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook site. So again, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. It would be wonderful if you'd give us a like up there. And finally, our next webinar again is Maintaining Your Chapter Website. Again, that is on Tuesday, January 14th at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. A great referral for me would be to please go back to your chapters. Executive directors, please go back to your regions and let them know that these webinars are happening and to please invite them to join us. So if we don't have any additional questions, I'm going to say thank you to everyone. Have a wonderful weekend and happy connecting.